Hello, everyone. I wasn't sure I'd be live tonight, but here I am. So give yourselves a few minutes to get ready. Hopefully you'll see the notifications. So while I'm waiting for people to settle down, if you can subscribe and hit that bell and go and turn on all notifications, then you'll see whenever I load anything up. So I'm Trudy, and I'm here every Monday talking about quantum human revelations. So I'm here live on a Monday at 8 p.m. British summertime. I'm in the UK. And the reason I do these is to share some of the new Ascension frequencies that are coming in, because we're entering a new era. There's a lot of new frequencies. There's a lot of shifting. Our society is falling down around our ears. Things are changing drastically. And yet there is a time of opportunity running alongside that we can move from surviving into thriving if we know what frequencies to tap into. So the whole point at this time, I think, is that there's a whole bunch of people who are awakening up to their potential and their abilities. People that maybe have not been spiritual or doing any spiritual kind of work at a deep level are maybe starting to notice they've got some skills. Maybe they're getting more vivid dreams. Maybe they're sensing energies a bit more. If they were already an empath, maybe that's ramping up. Or if they're already a highly sensitive person, maybe that's starting to become a little bit more amplified too. So if that's you, then this is a great place to be, because we can start talking about whether that's what you're sensing at this time as well. And today's conversation is going to be about, does our modern day spirituality actually meet our modern day needs? So just to give you an idea, big question, probably. And I've been busy all day, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I just want to get you guys thinking about this, and maybe we can carry on the conversation next week, because I only do 30 minutes. So does our current spirituality meet the needs of our place at the moment, at this new era, in this new time frame of change, and for what we are as modern humans? And while you're thinking about that, as I say, grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, bring yourself a drink, a notepad, a pen. And it's not just about the words I speak. My words are energy. Every word I speak is energy. I'm sourcing them specifically to cause reactions in your body and your energy system, so that you can sense what I'm talking about too, because I think each of us has our own special contribution to make to this conversation. I'm just the collaborator, or the glue that's kind of trying to pull you all together to suggest topics of conversation to stretch your consciousness in new directions. So I hope that you're ready for this conversation today. I'm just going to check that everybody's messages are on, because I notice sometimes I don't see what's going on YouTube. Cool. I've got the YouTube comments up so we can have a conversation. So, as I said, I think that we're all here at this time to bring in new frequencies, to awaken new potential and new abilities, because in truth, we don't really understand the capability of the human brain and what the human experience should be like, I guess. You know, if we look at what we do today versus where we were years ago, you know, the Neanderthals, our needs are different, our spirituality is different. But is what we have now enough for the way that we see? Because we understand things now on a deeper level than we did back at the caveman times, you know, where we were quite happy having the different gods for the weather, for the harvest, for the fertility, you know. We had some very basic kind of goddess energies that we would call on to support us, whereas now we don't seem to do that as much, you know. We're all very good at reading self-help books and watching videos on self-help and spirituality, but I kind of feel like sometimes that experiential part is missing somewhat. So that's what kind of made me think about the question, really, like, what does spiritual mean to you? What does it mean to be someone at this time, to become a quantum human? So if anybody's got any ideas so far, then let me know in the comments. Because for me, I think being spiritual is such a vast, you know, if it's confused. When I started doing this work, I tried to find words that would explain what I did. And spiritual was my first go-to word, until I realized it can be religion as well. And people, you know, Christianity will call themselves spiritual. So it's a very confusing word. Then I started looking at energy intuitives, or energy healers, or psychics, or seers. And it kind of like, well, we're all of that. We're all healers, we're all seers, we're all energy transmuters. So there wasn't one word that seemed to sum it up. And even if we use the word healer to represent what the New Age healer represents, again, there's such a variety of healing modalities out there that it didn't really encapsulate that either. Now, I'm not just talking about the different levels that people can do, but just the vastness, whether it be sound baths, crystals, quantum healing, whether it be past life, future life regression, there's all these different modalities out there. And if you're in the healing domain, then you probably know of some of these already. And if you do, then let me know if you've heard of any of those things. But generally, the people that I see waking up now have not been in that level of exploration, I guess. The awakening that's happening is almost like a fresh perspective on what spirituality is. And that's why that question was kind of where I wanted to go today. So for me, like I said, it kind of came on me slowly. It wasn't something I chose to be. I think having ME and chronic fatigue put me to bed to let me think about questions like this, to help me explore them, because spirituality originally comes from, why am I here? What am I here to do? Especially when you're sick and you're in bed and you're like, what is the meaning of life? Why am I ill? Like, what's the point of being here? Those sort of questions is where this starts. And I know that these kind of explorations often come out of huge challenges or huge trauma in our lives that leads us to that question when we're trying to rationalize and our rational brain is struggling to balance out the vastness of the human experience. So if we assume that, my ME and CF chronic fatigue has kind of brought that through, then I feel like I had to find a meaning that was without material gain, if that makes sense. It's not about, we see many people who are sick, who have got the money, who've got the cars, who've got the houses, and yet they're still sick, or they are struggling in other parts of their lives, so those things are nice. And don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these spiritual people that believe you shouldn't have an expensive car just because you're spiritual. I'm like, go out and have all the experiences you can have. But I do feel that there is this element of understanding ourselves and our purpose, which is why I'm a soul vision guide, is to help people connect to that. And for me as well, it's this ability to sense energy. So I mentioned empaths, highly sensitive person, which I think is kind of naughty in a way. HSP, highly sensitive person. When I was starting this work, HSP meant higher sensory perception. And to me, think how much more empowering that is. Higher sensory perception versus highly sensitive person. I prefer the higher sensory perception personally. I am a highly sensitive person. I am an empath, but I also have higher sensory abilities too. So it's that kind of discussion that I was going to hope for tonight. So let's see. So yeah, Jenny's saying it's hard to define. I think the first thing that comes to mind is connection to my soul and other spirits and energy. Yeah. It's that feeling that we are all connected on a bigger scale, this unity consciousness, but also an awareness of energy across the animal kingdom, the plants, the earth, the sky, the stars. It's that feeling your place on the planet on a larger scale, to me, is what it feels like to be in that flow of spirituality, I guess. And this is why I kind of started using the word quantum human, because there wasn't anything that seemed to match what I was trying to explain. And I wanted to make sure that the quantum human aspect was about your 5D abilities, your higher consciousness abilities, your energy alchemist, combined with your ability to take action, to be rational, to draw plans, to drop schedules and be able to make decisions and put those together. And that to me makes the perfect human, which I wanted to call the quantum human, because we are using our visualization skills, we're using our soul wisdom to create, because we know that your mind doesn't know the difference between TV and the kind of dreams that you have in your head when your eyes are closed. They feel real, and you can achieve great things when you can visualize yourself doing something. So if you can mix all of that together and learn these as just like skills like reading and writing, then I think that's really quite an empowering place to be as a human being. And as I said, I did artificial intelligence, so I was on my favorite top subjects there were, I could have done robotics, but I didn't because I don't like biology. So I did machine learning and language understanding, which is kind of really trying to get to the depth of how our human brains work, how we understand language, how we perceive our world, which kind of then led into an interest in mythology and psychology and those kind of philosophical kind of questions. So that's what kind of left me edging more and more then towards what we may call spirituality. So if those words sound good to you, then give me a shout out in the comments. So we're exploring, like, what does spirituality mean to us, and is spirituality that we've got available or useful for the rest of the world as we are today? So I wanted to share an experience I had today. And if we kind of look at spirituality in terms of culture, then some cultures still have a relatively strong spiritual aspect. But compared with those days like the Egyptians, you know, if we go back to the Egyptians, where priests and priestesses were normal, where we had shamans in most villages, where there was always a wise person in a village until it became frowned upon, these people would become the spiritual compass for a group of people. And we've lost that to a certain degree at the moment. I know we can go online and find plenty of people to watch from and to listen to, or gurus, but that kind of on the ground in your village, keeping everyone pointing in the same direction type person doesn't exist anymore. And as we get more and more busy, we've got less time to contemplate and to consider and to notice what skills we actually have and what we have available to us, I guess, to expand our consciousness and how we can play with our own imagination and our awareness of heart, head and gut intelligence and all of these other, you know, we all know now that emotional intelligence is kind of like accepted as being real. But there's so many more intelligences available that we don't tap into. Jenny say she wants to be a wise person in the village. And Kiss, I don't know who Kiss is. Hello, Kiss. Thank you. Nice to meet you. So think of this as what a spiritual person used to do, and think of what we've got today. So think of those Egyptian priestesses that were there helping guide kings and help governments make decisions versus where we are today on that spiritual level. And then see if we can compare what those two worlds look like. And to me, I kind of feel like that spiritual priestess type character has, when it was taken out of society, it kind of got us lost a little bit. And there's this concept of a keystone species. And a keystone species is one that if it's taken away, lots of infrastructure collapses because of it. And the wolf is one of these animals that is a keystone species. And they found when they put a wolf back into its natural habitat, that the deer would be culled so that they would be reduced in their size, which knocked onto the riverbanks where the erosion of the deer drinking water had kind of altered the shape of the rivers. So that all healed. Then the rivers flowed their natural paths. So the original places where it watered were now being watered again rather than pooling in certain areas. And it was just like a knock-on of dominoes, you know, that you put the wolf back and then all these things fell back into place. And I wonder if that's what spirituality is meant to be for us now. And if that's the case, then where do we get it from? Do we get it from watching YouTube videos of people? Because even though I'm doing these things, what I'm hoping I'm doing is inviting you guys to think for yourself, to discern your own truth, to consider things and your own abilities in new ways. I cannot tell you what's true and what's not true, because I think whatever's true for me, you could see the exact opposite, and I still think that's true. And the fun is trying to work out how the two things can be true at the same time, because each of us sees our truth from a different level of consciousness, and a different part of our experiences, you know, will be different. So there'll never be like apples for apples when we look at spirituality. And once you know that, then you can accept everybody has their own view and everybody's right. And it's not about, oh, I've just discovered something new, I must go onto a channel and start telling everybody about this new thing, without necessarily enabling other people to do that too, if that makes sense. And we know that there are so many gurus out there right now that can tell you what things mean, but even then it's only hitting you at the brain level of information. You know, it's just overloading your brain with lots of information. Whereas experiencing it is a complete different experience. Yeah, it's a complete different way of learning. Experiential learning is completely different. And I think in the old days, that's how we kind of learned. We learned because we would notice the vibration of our parents when they were visiting a priest or priestess, and that would rub off as children. Well, we don't have some of those examples now as children to grow up into. So just imagine what you would do if you were able to define what a spiritual person was right now. Like what traits would you give a spiritual person right now? What would you like to see? As we kind of like, let's build an avatar for what the perfect spiritual person would be. Or in my case, we call them quantum human. That's a weird one. Congratulations on your pregnancy. No pregnancy here. I'm guessing that's for somebody else. Charles is saying, do whales have a spiritual philosophy, or do they ask themselves questions like, how do I evolve? Do I, as a whale, need to evolve? Can humans help me evolve? I think, I kind of remember Teal Swan saying something really interesting about 10 years ago, where she kind of emphasized that the difference between humans and animals is that something happens, therefore this is a knock-on effect. And because of that, then you might find that the thought process then of a human is more about like, how does that impact me? What does that mean to me? Whereas an animal just notices pain, change, hunger, and the basic kind of habits. Oh, excuse me a minute. Let me just do something here. We've got a little bit of a hacker. Okay. Oh no, that might not have done it. Well, my first time being hacked. So yeah, so sorry, Charles, with your question about it being, come on, about whales and whether they think of this, I don't think they do. Okay, let's see if that helps. All right, sorry about that. So yeah, so I think animals tend to, I think they just let nature take over. Their bodies naturally evolve on some level, because obviously we know from the dinosaur times that they've changed and moved forward. But I don't think they have that why am I here type questioning. That's something that's just been experienced by humans, which is quite interesting. And it makes you wonder what it is about our brain that makes us ask those questions and need that happiness outside of just existing, that we need to know our purpose and we need to know why we're here. So I was going to share a story quickly. I was in town today doing a Dancing with Energy, which is like teaching people how to become an energy alchemist to boost their vitality. And one of the security guards that was watching me set up came and asked me questions. And at first he was kind of curious about I've got like a metal sound solfeggio harp, and he was in, it's like a xylophone, but they call it a harp. And he saw that and he asked me questions about that. And then he said to me, did I believe that his soul could be in multiple places at the same time? And I thought, wow, that's a big question for somebody you've just met, but I loved it. But he was Tunisian, so I guess that kind of question was more natural for him to ask. And I think he was just relieved that somebody answered him, because he also went on to say that in this area, he didn't find people like to chat generally. So we had a bit of conversation about the soul and how, you know, different parts of the soul can exist and how we can speak to it, how we can do soul-to-soul communication. And he was saying, oh, is that a bit like when you think of somebody and then they call the next minute? I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of same energy that we're working on. You know, these are parts of the brain we don't understand. And he said about how he was feeling lost and how he felt like since he moved from Tunisia to the UK, he just didn't know his purpose anymore. He felt unlucky. He didn't know what he was here for. And he wondered if it was the place or whether he should go back. And within a few minutes, I simply asked him to body test. So I kind of got him into his body, asked him to do, when we do kinesiology testing, I use the body rather than the finger mode. And I just said, just relax your knees and ask yourself a question. Let your body go forward for yes, back for no. He completely understood when I said, when you meet somebody you like, you lean towards them. When you don't, you go back. He instantly got all of this. He didn't even question it. And then after we did this exercise, I asked him to close his eyes and to send some roots down into the earth and to just bring himself into his body. And I asked him to imagine he'd grown cat whiskers out. And I was then going to kind of pass my hand over where the cat whiskers would be. And he flinched. So he had his eyes closed and he didn't know I was doing it. And I just passed my hand over and he flinched. So here's somebody who's never done any energy work, who probably would not class himself as spiritual, who was lost, seeking something, but still wasn't using New Age spirituality, didn't have his own kind of path through this spiritual landscape. And just from these few things, he started, you could see him shifting and thinking things differently, because we were asking, like, should I be here in the UK or should I be in another country? And his body, and he's going, this is really strange. My body's just answering on its own. And that's somebody who's never done any of this before. And with just the right guidance, instantly, they were in the zone of sensing energy, becoming an alchemist, looking at how they could change their own energy and feeling connected because of that. And I'm not sure that all spirituality can do that. It doesn't always seem to bring us together in that connectedness. I can't. People are in a second. No, it's not good to. The Jew saying experience spirituality in any of its form requires faith. And quantum humans can't be exception to that. Exactly. I think, you know, quantum humans was just more expansive rather than taking something out. It's that we all of humans, even take out the word quantum, all of humans can't be an exception to this. We all have that need. It's just, it's not a need that we're taught how it feels, or how, like, we don't know how to have it met feels, and we don't know how to create it ourselves, that feeling of connection, because it's not part of our education anymore. And that kind of goes back to that time, you know, of cavemen and the way children were copying by, I think the word's osmosis, like you just see it and then you do because your parents did. You're not really taught it, you're just experiencing it, and then you learn that way. And I think that's true as well of that kind of learning that we're not getting now. Yeah, we didn't get time to talk about his faith, because Judy's saying that it is, he may be lost, but he has faith. We didn't get to talk about his faith in full details because I had to move on and do something else. But oh no, they were changing shifts, that's right. But yeah, I was curious to talk to him a bit more. But yeah, it was really interesting how quickly he, if nothing else, how quickly he was willing to play with the concept of energy and to open his mind to actually sense it and to play with the concept that it existed, and stand in the middle of a shopping center and body test. When some other people I asked were like, as soon as they saw me going to speak to them, their eyes hit the floor and walked away. And yet we're at a time of history where we're probably at the most loneliest. We've got the most technology, the most electronic connections. We can see people on video, we can call people, we can have phone calls now reaching the corners of the earth. And yet we're probably, as a humanity, feeling the most lonely that we've ever felt. And it's that, how do you create that meaningful connection? And that's what I think part of that unity consciousness is, and that connection to other people. So the question I was asking everyone, and I'd love to see your answers, is modern day spirituality, I'm not saying like is spirituality important, but the way it is portrayed today, is it enough for our modern day needs? Or is a lot of it just kind of lip service to what it is? Or are we too much focused on quick fixes than actually doing the work? What is your opinion on that? Just once I sorted out everything else. That's all I kind of wanted to talk about today, really, is just to give that kind of sensing into what would we want to see in a human and class as spiritual. Because again, I think a lot of spiritual people that I speak to don't seem so spiritual at the end of the day, or at least not in the way I would see it, because the people I learned from and grew up learning from were very much a, you know, it starts within, and once you look inside, you can then change what's inside to express it outwardly differently. And I still see a lot of blame and victimhood coming from supposedly spiritual people, which then makes you wonder, well, if spirituality is so great, if all these new age techniques are so amazing, then why are they not as satisfied or able to be satisfied within? Well, that's it, isn't it? It's the type of spirituality, mainstream kind, probably. But it seems like we're in the age of information right now. You know, I think back in 2020, they were predicting we're moving into this knowledge is important, and creating our own knowledge databases or our courses or our presentations are the next in thing, is the next big industry. And the thing I do notice is that if you were to do a healing for somebody, the first thing they then want to go and do is to become a healer and do it for somebody else. And I'm always surprised by that. It's like, one, it doesn't hand over that quickly to be able to do it to the level of the healer that's supporting you. Is always going to be lessons that you have to learn and experience that you have to pick up. But it's like, why did you want to then become a healer from that? Why did you not want to just take that ability into another job, into another area? And I do think there's a certain amount of hiding in the spiritual community where we like to hide in those frequencies and stay in those bubbles of bliss because it's easier there than the real world, which is true. You know, the real world is a harsh, harsh place. But if we're going to be alchemists and quantum humans, we need to be able to handle these harsher energies and transmute them. And to do that, I feel like we need to be out in the community doing that, rather than sort of taking people in, healing them, putting bandages or energy sort of bandages on people, but teaching them how to manage their own energies as well. So I thought I'd leave that there today, and maybe if everybody thinks about it, maybe we can talk about it a bit more next week. So I've had quite an exhausting day today. As I say, I was down in this shopping centre teaching people to become energy alchemists, because I kind of feel like, for me, I've broken the quantum human down into two aspects. Well, I think it's 5 is what I've got in total, but I've got 2 main offerings to go around that. One is helping get clarity on your soul vision and why you're here, and finding what makes you happy and in an authentic way. And then there's this energy alchemist, which I do through dancing with energy, starting to become aware of our body energy, sensing energies, transmuting energies, and then just simply generating an energy that you want and learning how to do those kind of things. But as part of the overall picture, I think my 5 things were trusting yourself and your own abilities to be able to connect to your own higher consciousness, honoring the natural rhythms of your body, of the earth, of general kind of creative processes. You know, a creative process sometimes starts off quick, goes through a lull, like I think we spoke about the desert when we started the series, comes back up the other side, you think there's nothing and something sprouts up, you know. So there's all these natural rhythms. There's the lunar rhythms, there's the Schumann resonance. There's so many rhythms going on around us, and it's just once we get in tune with that, we're more able to flow a bit more. The next one was intuitive decision making, where I wanted people to be able to notice that they have more control over making happy decisions than wondering if they've made a right decision or not, but finding ways to kind of say, yes, I'm happy to make this decision, and the experience that comes with it, which is kind of that trust and responsibility of self again. Then we had the vibrational alignment, which is kind of the energy alchemist tuning into your body, noticing your vibration and what that's creating. And finally, it's that, how do you navigate life gracefully? What can you do to find your own balance, your own techniques for reframing negative experiences, for helping you make sense of the world? It's change management, you know, it's all those kind of things then all kind of into the last bucket. So those are 5 things I've created and I'm working on building within my membership to help teach people these skills, and it's growing. And I guess it's never going to stop, because I think as the frequencies keep changing through Ascension, then these techniques are going to change too, as we become more able to understand the basics. You know, it's just the next layer that comes. It's a never-ending story. I think Judy mentioned this on one of my posts the other day. It never stops, you know, no matter what age you are, no matter what year it is, it's forever growing, learning, expanding, I guess. And I did see something this week that kind of described guides as mentors. And I think that's how I see mine. When I get the downloads, I feel like it's a teacher giving me something to go and learn, and then I go and learn it. So I'm still learning about time, karma, and DNA at the moment, although I just now know there's math and gravity to add to that. So I've got a few more words and I'm just playing with that. So I don't know if you guys have had any updates on your time and karma and the dance of time and karma and DNA, but each of us could tune into that and find our own bit of information, you know, and that's the empowering part of spirituality, I think, is when we all start getting our own downloads and we can share them and talk about them and create community that way. Yeah, so like Judy's saying, it's quite annoying today. I got like a little heart that pops up and it keeps sticking itself. I don't know where that's gone, over the words, so I can't see the full sentence. The yoga, mindfulness, meditation are popular, yeah. And 20 years ago, everybody thought they were bonkers for doing it. Well, this is it, isn't it? And like it's all going off now as wellness. Those things now are classed as wellness. They're still not spiritual, they're wellness now. And it's okay to have those in companies who do yoga in the afternoons and things, but they've been moved into the wellness category. But things are moving, you know, we're still shifting into new areas, and that 20 years ago was new then, is now 20 years old. And it's only now the mainstream is catching up on some of that stuff. Oh, thanks, Jenny. Yes, I taught you all those things. Yeah. Well, that's part of the membership that I'm trying to get everyone to like, yeah. We don't, the thing is when you're teaching something, I find that if you try to teach somebody a whole subject from scratch, then all I'm teaching is the brain. If I teach you what you need when you need it so you can apply it, that's the experiential thing. It's the difference between learning Spanish from a book or learning Spanish whilst being in Spain, shopping in a market, trying to buy some food. You're going to remember the shopping experience more than you will from a book of just trying to remember it through rote memory. If you've experienced it and you're kind of using it in real life examples, it's more embodied, I guess. That's the word I'm looking for. And that's why I try to teach in the membership. So there's no like beginning and end. We just literally tune the tools. We keep going until a new situation comes up. We tune the tools and keep using them. So we're coming up to the end of time. I'm surprised I managed that long. So it's coming up to the end of August, isn't it? How close to the end of August are we? Wow, okay, Thursday, end of August on Thursday. Another month flown by, time is zooming past. So my next Monday is going to be the September energy reading. So I'll be doing that this week. And also we'll be preparing for the Pisces full moon. So in terms of the soul journeys that I do online, we do one every month nearest the full moon. And the whole point of them is to start learning the difference between your ego and soul needs. And we look at the journey of the soul that comes out of the ether and the mass the collective and comes down, experiences it being in a physical body, balancing the soul and the personality, and then going back up again. So Pisces is coming to the end, but also it's the beginning of the next cycle as well. So on Pisces, what we focus on is it's almost like a life review for the last year. So that'll be on the 5th of September if you want to join me online. The tickets are on Eventbrite. And if you're really interested, then I have another ticket if you PM me or email me that involves a ticket to that event, but also a month in my membership as well, where you can then get some more content and access some of the other courses and things that I have in there. Good morning from Seattle. Good morning, and I'm just finishing, Lisa. It's just coming up to the end, sorry. So yeah, so we've got the full moon coming up, and next Monday when I come on, I'll talk about the September energies. I had a quick peek already, and it's I think after such an energetically intense August, the energy seems to be shifting to integration. And I think that's why this spiritual kind of conversation is probably coming into my mind, because this is where we have to take what we've sensed, what we've heard others, what we've intuited for ourselves, and now embody it and bring it into a new habit in our bodies. And that process, sometimes we don't often get taught that. So if anybody's got any questions about that kind of process, let me know and I'll answer you. Even if you're watching this on replay, I can watch you. Yeah. And you missed the hacker as well, Lisa. So what do we got? So Charles says, we are changing weekly. It's kind of not in degree. Yeah, that's what's so exciting. And that's what being spiritual. Yeah. I think that's what is becoming a necessity for why we have to become our own spiritual guru, our own spiritual guide, picking and choosing what resonates. But like I said, my words are not meant to be the truth. My words are meant to awaken in you the truth that is your truth. If I say something and it causes a shift in you, then that's where you then feed that back to me. Then that's a great cycle, because then we're really bouncing off each other, mirroring each other to create change in our consciousness. And we create an energy when we do that. You know, the more of us that do that, we create an energy, and that bubble reaches around the world. So it impacts other people, not just the people on this live. So excellent. Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you next Monday. Oh, and Dana's just come on as well. Out chopping wood for the winter. Yeah, and I'm just saying to Lisa as well, you guys who just joined us, I'm finishing. Because 8 p.m. here is actually getting dark early, so it's already dark. It's only 8:30, but it's already dark. I can't read your all messages. It keeps putting this love heart in the way. Let's see. So it says, oh, my angels and ancestors are coming up around me. When you say that, maybe that's what that says. Yeah. Well, at least that happened. Even if it is the end, that's a good time for that to happen. But yeah, we're definitely, it's kind of like becoming our own truth seeker and our own wisdom, and understanding who we are, and not looking outside of ourselves for anything anymore, but actually starting to recognize all the answers are within us for us to connect to. And that's perhaps where we'll start the conversation next week, because there's a couple of things that we do that give our power away. So maybe we should talk about that next Monday after we've done the energy reading for the month. Cool. Right, guys, I've gone over by 10 minutes. So I'm going to say goodbye now. So thank you all for joining me, and thanks for the comments. And thank you for whoever said they thought I was pregnant, but that would be a miracle in itself. But yeah, he's gone now, luckily. So I hope you all have a wonderful week, and see you in September. Bye, guys.